Okay, let me just do an introduction, then you guys can go. Um, Clez versus Dom. It's on abortion, as you guys can see in the topic. Um, it's gonna be a very more dialectical debate, not like the ones that if you were there, you'd see yesterday where they were just speed talking. But um, it's gonna be Clez talks. He's gonna show a slideshow for like the first 10 minutes, and then Dom or Clez and Cross-X, then Dom, then Cross-X and Crossfire, and then they'll finish off with, rebuttals. Clez, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and go. Get your timer going.
All right, hold on. Let me turn this on. All right. Hello, everyone. This will be a first in LFG debates, someone with an actual camera on and actually presenting a full case. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Let's get right into it. So let's turn on the slideshow.
Can't hear your mic, by the way.
We can't hear you.
Let me know whenever you fix it because it's not working.
Yeah. Okay, that should do it, right?
There you go. Yeah, it works.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm taking the position that abortion is immoral for this debate, and there's going to be one starting assumption that I'm sure we're all going to agree on. If this is disagreed on, we'll talk about that later on. Killing innocent humans is wrong. Denying this would undercut all moral claims, including abortion rights. So, killing humans is wrong when they're innocent. We're going to start with that assumption. So, this is really going to be a debate about whether or not life starts at conception, and from there, if that is accepted, whether or not terminating a human life or murder at that point is ever justified. So, human nature, which is what we're talking about the essence of humanity, refers to what something is, not what it can do. You do not lose your nature over time. For example, when I sleep, just because I lost the ability to act consciously does not mean I am not a human anymore. That is merely an accidental change rather than a change of substance. This is some like old metaphysics stuff. All you really need to know is look at the bottom left. We have nature, which is the I, the essence of what I am, and accidents is changes in who I am. So the start of a new substance starts at conception and it ends at death, right? Because we have, and it's for me, I would say the real end. When I say death, it's not physical death, but spiritual death. But that's neither here nor there for this debate specifically. So I go from conception, kid, teen, adult, death. I do not change fundamentally, right? I change in terms of accident, not in terms of someone making an accident, but rather there are changes that don't change the essence of who I am, right? So me as a kid is not a completely different person. It's just me as a kid. So me is the nature, kid is the accidental change. So development is accidental change, not substantial change. Any cutoff after conception is arbitrary. Conception is only a moment a new substance comes into existence. So my argument right here is that, or my point rather, let's say the argument will come through this, that the instantiation of the human nature begins at conception and it ends at spiritual death for me. You could have physical death. Again, that's not really neither here nor there for the debate. So, based on this, and if my opponent disagrees, you have to give some kind of argument for an arbitrary cutoff line, unless he's some kind of nominalist, which is going to change the discussion quite a bit. I'm assuming he's not. Nominalism is quite a rare position, but he's going to have to demonstrate why any cutoff line for a start that is not conception is justified. I would say it's not. I would say it's arbitrary. Now, I want to prepare this actual argument I'm going to make based on that context with this. So during the last debate, and why I'm really happy to have this camera and slides on, is that we had an issue where it felt like the method of my justification wasn't really understood. So I'm going to be giving you here this little Google AI thing that I looked up real quick so you guys can have a full understanding of it. So retorsion justifies a proposition by demonstrating that denying it leads to a self-contradiction, absurd result, or logically untenable position. So my argument is going to my first argument here is going to be based on the fact, and this is really the foundation of my entire argument, that denying the position I have leads to absurdity. And as retorsion, that is a completely justified method of justification. So when I am going into his position, demonstrating absurdity into it, that is for my position. Okay, it's not just me saying, well, he's just wrong. and not providing justification for me. The fact that he is wrong and me showing that how my position solves the logical issues is the form of justification. You see here, it's been used in philosophy for a long time. Aristotle used it in one instance against the sophists. Kant's argument for consciousness uses this direct form of argumentation. So that being said, this debate presupposes there is such a thing as identity slash nature. If you remember 2 slides ago, I talked about how nature is something that persists over time. Now, this persisting over time in an unchanging way, I'm sure is something we'd all agree on. As in, when I was a kid, it's me as a kid. We see how there's an unbroken line there. We need a ground, we need a justification for how things can be unchanging in this way. I would say the only ground, and by denying it leads to absurdity, is going to be the Christian concept of God. So there's multiple different other theories that you could try using, which I would say don't work. I don't know what my opponent's theory is. We'll see. First, psychological continuity fails. Psychological continuity refers to the idea that, because the mind's consistent with before, therefore that grounds the unbrokenness. But this can be demonstrated to be false by things like comas. Does a person's essence change when they have a coma or stop existing for a temporary period of time? That wouldn't make much sense. Mereological flux refers to specifically grounding in a physical thing. So a lot of naturalists will have to do this. They'll say, we can ground ontologically these type of things through physical matter. But the thing is, physical matter changes all the time. I know I look the same as I'm recording this, or not recording, but talking throughout this whole entire debate. But in reality, there's millions upon millions and millions of atoms that are changing second by second by second, right? So it seems arbitrary to say that by atoms you can ground my identity, right? And the very idea that we could ground identity into a physical object is very weird, because as humans we're using non-physical things, mental ideas project onto physical objects in that case, which mind reality fit would become a problem there. If my opponent takes that position, I'll go more into that. And you also can't ground value in physical things because, my opponent said when we're setting up this debate that abortion is not wrong because it's just a clump of cells. Well, Dom, we are all clumps of cells, right? We're just more complicated, arranged clumps of cells. I'm a clump of cells, you're a clump of cells, Burner's a clump of cells, the whole audience is a clump of cells, my camera's a clump of cells. Everything's a clump of cells, basically. Atoms, whatever word you want to use, right? It's kind of arbitrary whether you use atoms, cells, whatever, right? The point is, all over the place, we have a bunch of atoms and cells all over the place. To say one is more valuable than the other, which kind of a debate, abortion debate would have to presuppose if you take that position, is arbitrary. And if you want to demonstrate how it's not, feel free to go ahead. Next, social identity, just like social opinion, that's conventional. It's not an actual grounding because it changes all the time and it can vary from person to person. And science, my opponent decides to take a really scientific position, will fall to the is-ought proposition. Science can only describe what is happening, not whether or not it is right or wrong. Now, that is retorsion. That is demonstrating logical absurdities in those different positions. Now, God can ground this identity slash nature thing, which is necessary for this debate because God is unchanging as a property. God is beyond human autonomy. He's transcendental. And through that, we're able to say, okay, this is the ontological foundation in which we're going to put consistent identity slash nature. That is logically coherent. Now, if he has a problem with us positing God, that would be an argument about the logical soundness of what I said, rather whether or not positing God is possible for a different reason. But that is a logically coherent explanation, and I would say this is a very successful piece of retortion right here. Next, through this foundation we have set, we see through divine revelation in Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. This demonstrates identity prior to biology. This is further example that conception is the starting point for humanity. It is not some later point. And therefore, concepted organisms in the womb, whatever phrase you like to use, I know there's a bunch of different stages, whatever one you like to use, okay, that is a human. Killing innocent humans is wrong. That would therefore make abortion and killing of innocent humans, which in other words is murder. Now, a sub-argument I have, I'll make this quick, is women's rights, all right? I'm assuming my opponent here will have some kind of acclamation towards women's rights. I'm sure he believes that women should have the right to abortion. Well, what makes rights right? This kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Is it a physical grounding? Well, as I said earlier, these type of things change all the time. And plus, how can you know humans' interpretation of these physical objects is correct? What if one person has a different interpretation of another? Is it a social opinion? Well, the problem with social opinions is it can vary from person to person. Understand? And that causes the problem of subjectivity. There's really no real reason. I could just say, well, I disagree. And he can say he thinks it's true, and we'll be stuck in an endless mind, which will completely destroy the whole entire premise of debate. Next, science. Well, as we said earlier, science cannot ground right or wrong. It can only ground what something is and what something is not moral categories. It only describes physical events. It can only be grounded by God because God is unchanging, as I said earlier. God has also given us divine revelation, so we have epistemic access to these things. So there's two aspects that are very relevant here: ontological foundation and epistemic foundation. The ontological foundation is the actual source, right? So that would be the physical ground, social opinion, science. I'll say ontological ground is God, and that one works because it is objective. Okay, it is objective, and we have epistemic access to it. For example, the physical grounding thing, there's an epistemic problem where we can't really know whether or not a certain human's interpretation is correct or incorrect. Because we have an objective starting point ontologically through God, we're able to have epistemic access through divine revelation. And in this case, the Bible says very clearly in two sections, I'll read the underlined parts, Titus 2:3-5, encourage the young women to love their husbands and to love their children, to be self-controlled, pure, workers at home, kind, and in submission to their husbands. 1 Timothy 2:12-15. Here it says, but women will be saved through childbearing. They continue in faith, love, and holiness and propriety. So we see here is the Bible through divine revelation, which I establish as the ground, clearly says that childbearing is one of the woman's main purposes in life, along with getting a husband and staying at home and taking care of it. Now, abortion directly pulls away from that, thus making another reason for why abortion is very harmful to women spiritually, but also just in a general moral sense. Now, how much time do I have?
Oh, wait, okay, you have 15 seconds.
Burner.
Oh my
How much
gosh, no one's
time?
on mute here, Tookie. You have 15 seconds if you want to just end it. Can you hear me?
Wait, how much time?
15 seconds. Pretty much starting.
Okay, all right, I'll just use the rest of the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get down.
All right. First of all, great opening
Are you ready?
statement. Yep, I'm ready.
Okay.
So I just
right.
Yep.
Now.
I just want to begin by clarifying the question I will be answering here, because there will be a lot of like side debates that we'll be delving into, and it is not to resolve the moral issue in front of us, just to like explore it. I accept that new human organisms begin at conception. I am not disputing this biology. The question is not when human life begins, but whether biological humanity alone is sufficient to ground full moral rights, such as that abortion is morally equivalent to murder, or in all cases, except immediate threat to the mother's life. And my answer here would be no. My position is not utilitarian. I am not weighing outcomes, usefulness, social benefits, all of that. What I'm saying is that I'm not claiming that one human life is more valuable than the other. I'm going to reject that because that's a bad way of looking at this. My moral framework is rights-based and person-centered. I hold that moral rights exist to protect beings who can actually be wronged, not someone who is not a subjective experience yet. So with interests that can be harmed or violated, which in this case would be the mother. Morality is about how we may treat persons, not biological substances. I'm saying this distinction matters because morality tells us how people ought to be treated and what requires a person, like what a person here actually means. Yes, killing people is morally wrong, but what I classify as a person is someone who possesses a conscious subjective life, which you pointed out that there are some problems in distinction there, um, of experiences, of projects, of like what an inherent person is. Without consciousness, there is no subject that can be deprived of moral relevance. In early pregnancy, there is no consciousness, there is no awareness, there's no experience, no interests, no you. So it is, if you were a fetus, as like before in the first trimester, it is kind of like not existing yet. you're on the way there, but you're not existing yet. So you do not have a moral status because you as a subject don't exist yet. And this doesn't just mean that like you're a clump of cells. That is not really helpful. The I'm not here to argue about like the atomic structure and whatever and all of those arguments that you possessed. I somewhat kind of agree with most of them. I'm trying to argue when someone can be wronged. So my argument will stem that human nature begins after a certain period of time, which is what I shall do in this debate. I'm the one who needs to put where humanity begins in a fetus. And I believe that conception marks a biological change, but not a like a metaphysical change yet. The continuity of identity does not entail continuity of moral status. We already recognize this elsewhere. Like accidental change can introduce moral relevant differences without changing the underlying substance of things. Ontology alone does not determine rights. This this can also be explained in factors like consent and imposed burden, including rape, which shall be one of my major talking points. And if abortion were morally equivalent to murder solely because of what the fetus is, then rape should not change the moral analysis. But the fact that many people think rape does show the consent and imposed harm are morally relevant, that doesn't, how should I put this? That they're morally relevant considerations that does not extend onto the fetus's existence. So the same applies to the claim that one can just like give a child up for adoption because adoption addresses what happens after birth. It just does not justify forcing someone to undergo pregnancy, childbirth in the first place. Pregnancy itself involves real bodily risk, and harm, and moral responsibility has limits. We do not force people to undergo extreme bodily sacrifices even to save lives. We don't have that. Like if someone is suffering from cancer and you ask someone to if they would be willing to donate a kidney, you are not forced into donating a kidney. This position does not deny the equal worth of persons, or nor does it like diminish the value of disabled children or unwanted children. I don't want to go into eugenics because that is a whole other game. Disability does not reduce moral status, but before consciousness exists, there is no person whose rights are being violated, as I mentioned. But if there is a foreseeable suffering, neglect, a lack of care towards the child, is it really better to put that child into the world knowing that they will suffer? Is that morally correct for them to, and for the mother to bring someone into the world knowing that they will leave it suffering and in pain? Others will argue that abortion is spiritually harmful to women, like what you did. I do not deny that abortion can be serious emotionally, spiritually, all that, and it is very difficult for women. But potential spiritual harm does not by itself determine like the moral grounding of things, especially when women's experiences can vary widely and moral agency requires individuals to make decisions about their own moral and spiritual lives as well. Spiritual consequence is not the same as moral wrongness imposed by law. So, my position in this would be that abortion is not morally wrong in all cases because early pregnancy does not involve killing a conscious person, and because moral duties are proportional and limited. So, treating abortion as like morally equivalent to murder in every case except like immediate threat to a mother's life assumes precisely that must be proven. So this is the framework that I would like to defend. If you have any questions, be please ask because English is my second language. So if I'm not clear in something, please go ahead.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. We said 3 minute cross sects, right?
Prosex?
I
Okay.
thought you said 5 or
Oh
3.
yeah, 5.
I
Yeah, no,
Was it
you're
5
right.
or 3?
It was
5.
5. Yeah. Okay. Clez, you can go ahead and ask first whenever you're ready.
Okay, I took a lot of notes on what you said, but here's the first thing I'm going to ask you. You say that you made all these points, like, for example, moral status begins at consciousness. My question is why?
Huh. Yeah, well, the thing is that what how should I put this? Someone who is alive can interpret how morality is given or is perceived. Someone who is not born yet, they cannot perceive anything being done against them. They cannot perceive anything done unto them, or in this case, undoing them, if we can even count that fetus as a them. Because the thing is that morally, well, the thing is, I set the mark at consciousness because someone in a coma can still be conscious. There's cases for that, but someone who is completely brain dead, someone whose biological essence is gone, cannot comprehend what is doing onto them, and that person is no longer alive. And by that, they don't have any moral worth. Well, by moral worth, no, sorry. By moral worth, I mean that have they don't have any moral obligations, any moral duty. They're no longer part of the framework that us conscious human beings abide by.
Okay, I understand. But what you just said, are you aware of the is-ought distinction?
Yeah, so some people
Because
put
what
it
you
at
just said is
birth.
like an
Yeah,
is.
I know. Some people put it at birth. Um, Give me a second. I want to kind of answer your question as precisely as possible without like tripping myself. Um, well, it begins, I would say it begins somewhere. Okay, so here's the thing. For me, abortions should not really be done after a set period of time. Uh, I'm not because you're saying you're arguing against
Well,
all
okay, but
abortions.
okay. The thing is, it's like
Yep,
you're saying a lot of the things like it should be like this, it should be like that. I'm asking,
yep.
what's the standard?
Yeah,
Like,
of
where do
course.
you get? Is this like in your opinion? Is it a social opinion? Well, what's the
Yeah, okay, yeah.
standard?
No, okay, so I would put consciousness. Well, consciousness requires functioning cortex, like neuroscience, like a brain. So places no earlier than about 20 to 24 weeks, as I would put it, because that is when the fetus starts to develop its brain a lot fully. The brain is
Okay,
starting to set. Yep,
now you're saying okay, that's an is statement. Okay, at this point, consciousness develops. Now I'm
yep.
asking, by what standard does that matter? Because that's an is proposition again. Where's the ought? Where's the ought come from? The is or the ought that makes the is meaningful in this case.
Okay, so the standard, by what standard it matters. So if I comprehend it correctly, you're asking when does it turn into moral harm onto the child, correct?
No, I'm asking that you're saying these things like, oh, for example, me. I would say the
Yep,
moral standard is God. That's the
yep.
epistemic starting point. That's the ontological foundation. And through that, when I say, okay, abortion is wrong, that has meaning, that has weight because of the standard. What
Okay,
is
so
your standard?
you're asking for what my morality is based off.
Yeah. So basically, why
Okay,
is what you're saying not arbitrary?
hmm, 1 second. Okay, so my argument stands kind of on a scientific understanding of what experience and consciousness is. That subjects of experience being that can have like interests, be harmed, or be benefited, have moral duties kind of given onto them with their consciousness. That moral standings begin when the subject who can be wronged.
Time.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
now can I just finish this for
Yeah, you
him?
can go ahead because
That
it's about
once,
to be your
okay,
time.
once consciousness, um, someone who achieves consciousness can be wrong. That is where I start from. And for my consciousness, I base it off of a scientific understanding of usually where it begins.
Okay. So it's gonna be your turn, Dom. So whenever you're ready, I'll just start your time.
Okay. Now 1 second, I want to write a few questions.
Yeah, I'll give you like a minute of prep time. Real quick, I want to say too. I'm gonna just while they're doing this, I'm gonna do a Q&A now because Vol's here. So if anyone trolls, Vol can hopefully handle them. So after this, you want to come up and ask a question to some of the people you can.
Okay, I think I should be ready.
At the end.
So, Clez.
Okay, I'm starting your clock.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm starting your clock. Now.
Okay, so do you believe that moral status begins at conception for a human?
Yes, because the moral value of the human is based on its nature, and nature starts at conception.
So even in the absence of consciousness.
Correct.
Okay. Um, so are moral rights grounded in what something is or whether it can be wronged for you? I'm guessing what something is.
What something is.
Okay,
Yes.
so it is what it is a human. Is there like any moral relevance or like difference between a being that can experience harm and one that cannot? Like
Within the
morally.
context of this debate, no.
Then why is killing a sleeping person morally different from destroying a human cell? If in this case not.
A human cell, as
Yeah,
in,
yeah, a fetus. Like the after conception happens.
after conception, it is murder.
Okay. So if even if God grounds morality ontologically, where does God like explicitly state that full moral rights begin at conception rather than later in development?
Okay,
Like,
so the argument is for the entire Christian worldview, which includes certain aspects of metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. So, what will be relevant here is that we work in a system of universals. Something you said earlier was about how biology determines consciousness and whatever. We would disagree with that. We would say that nature is a universal idea sustained by God. That's how you have identity over time. So, in that nature, through that nature, we know certain things about it through divine revelation. Divine revelation teaches that murder is wrong and that life begins at conception. So, killing a
okay.
killing a human after conception would be murder.
Mhm.
Anything else, Dom?
1 second. I'm trying to formulate.
Yeah, go take your time.
Uh, I'll ask a final question, I guess, like a final
Okay.
set of questions, and then I'll let you speak. So then, do you believe that like abortion after conception is murder in like all cases, regardless of circumstance, because a
Okay.
full moral person exists?
Yeah, so murder is the unjustified killing of someone. I would
Mhm,
say the only exception would be the life of the mother because we have the principle that let's say a disabled person who isn't really that conscious and doesn't really understand what they're doing um, ends up wielding a deadly weapon and is brandishing in a way that could kill someone.
mhm.
Depending on the situation, a person could have the right to end that person's life. That would be very tragic, but they do have the right to do that. So I view it similar. I think it's logically consistent to say the same for abortion. But that would be the only exception. That would be very, very rare cases. Very, very rare. Very rarely is the mother's life actually in danger.
Okay. So you'd say that like bringing a person into this world into a world of hurt and harm and of just pure let's say the child goes on to live a very unfortunate life due to them having some sort of condition and they die 2 years after they're born. Do you think that bringing that child into this world just so it can die is morally justified? Because you're essentially killing a person that way. You brought a person into the world knowing full well their pain and misery and everything they've experienced in life could have been prevented, and you essentially put them through that torture.
Life is better than no life.
Mm. Okay. Thank you. I think that'll be all.
Okay, I don't think you guys actually ever set up a time for rebuttals. So if you guys want to just give a time for rebuttals before Q&A.
You can decide.
Okay, I'll do 3:30.
Okay.
3:30 clock. Clez, you can go first since you were AF. You want to start now?
Yeah.
Okay. Start.
All right. There's a fundamental problem in my opponent's position, and that is all distinction. So he, if you remember in my slides, I brought up the subject of bringing up science as a grounding, and he has chosen science as his ontological foundation. If he hasn't said that explicitly, but that's basically what it is. You see him bring up science and biology about consciousness, and when I asked him for his ontological foundation, he said another is statement. It wasn't an ont what he brought up. So to the point in this debate, I have not received an actual ontological foundation, but the closest I can see is that it's science, I suppose. Now, here's the thing with science. Science cannot ground any ethical claim. This has basically been this has been talked about in philosophy for such a long time with the is-ought distinction from David Hume. Bertrand Russell also brought up the is-ought distinction. The is-ought distinction basically says that an is proposition, which is what science is. A science is a bunch of descriptive propositions. This is how the world is. That doesn't inherently say anything about the morality of something. You need some kind of outside system to demonstrate morality, which is what the debate's about. It's about morality ultimately, because he says, it should be this way. That's the whole point of his position. It should be the way that I'm saying it is. But he hasn't given an actual moral system. So it's kind of hard to do a rebuttal when I feel like the real important aspect of his position hasn't been illustrated. But in any case, I'll go over some other things he said. He says that the subject starts at consciousness. Why? Is there any justification? Where is the ontological foundation in which this is sourced from? Science can tell you that, okay, because consciousness started here, therefore that is now a human being. What calling something a human being is predication. Predication is philosophical. A scientific answer can't answer this type of philosophical question, because we can have different scientific standards. I could say at conception, that's when humanity starts, and I can use science to prove that. If I say humanity starts at birth, I can use science to prove that. So see, whenever I say humanity starts, science can determine that for me. So this is arbitrary. He needs to give some kind of philosophical explanation for why he says that the moral value begins at consciousness. Excuse me if I said humanity. I meant to say a moral consciousness because what he said, or moral value. Let's see. Moral status begins at consciousness. Why? There's no moral standard that's been provided ontologically. Bodily sacrifice. We don't force people to bodily sacrifice. Well, I mean, literally, a massive percentage of abortions happen because two people had sex and didn't want the baby. So that is responsibility. And it's a part of your biology. Women are biologically designed to have kids. That's what it is. So yeah, it's kind of like it's funny he brings up science, biology. Biologically, that's the purpose of the female. Now, I could say the female is worth a lot more because I believe in God and I believe in these moral things. But if you really just take down to science, I mean, men have a penis, they put it into a female, and the female makes babies. That's really all that life is on biology. It's just about sex, it's about procreation. That's basically all it's about. So it's kind of weird reasons of bodily sacrifice. And if he wants to bring up exceptions like rape, incest, or whatever, those are a very small minority, and exceptions don't prove rules. next. Life's better than no life. I already said that. And
Time.
that's basically all. I feel like I went over the rest. And good timing.
Okay.
Ready
I'll
now?
just go straight ahead. Yep.
Okay.
Um.
Starting clock now.
Sorry. This was a lack of clear explanation on my part. I am not claiming that science creates morality, proves moral truth, or replaces philosophy or theology. What you said about Hume's point that you cannot get an ought from an is alone is correct. My moral framework is philosophical, not scientific, and not utilitarian. It is rights based and centered on moral harm. The core moral principle I'm using is that moral standing belongs to beings that can be wronged, meaning beings that can have interests, experience, or suffering, etc. That is a normative claim, I think, and that is what I've been trying to defend here, at least. Science plays an important role here. It does not tell us why moral standing matters. It tells us when the relevant conditions for moral standings exist. Once we accept that subjects of experience are what morality is meant to protect, so us who have consciousness and us who know what morality is, neuroscience then helps us identify when the capacity for this emerges in human development. That is how like philosophy and science can properly interact. They're not really competitors, but it is one is being used as a tool for answering the other's question. This is why I place moral standings like at the emergence of consciousness, not at conception. Conception marks like a biological change. Consciousness is a mark of a morally relevant one. I think that cutoff is not arbitrary because it tracks the presence of a subject who can actually be harmed. Before that point, there is no one there to wrong. Appealing to God as the ontological foundation of morality does not by itself settle this question, I think. Even if God grounds moral reality, we still need an argument for when moral rights apply. You kind of said that once conception happens, ontological grounding does not automatically give the moral cutoff. Revelation requires interpretation, and there is no unambiguous claim that full moral rights begin at conception rather than later in development. So invoking God does not eliminate the need for moral reasoning. It still is required, I think. And calling abortion murder assumes the conclusion murder is the unjust killing of a person. Whether abortion counts as murder depends entirely on when moral personhood begins, I think, which is what I've been trying to argue here. So repeating the word does not really establish the premise. The exception you allow when the woman's life is at risk actually proves this point. If abortion were murder in the same absolute sense as killing an innocent person, exceptions would not be possible. Allowing exceptions means fetal rights are not absolute and can be overridden by
Time.
other moral claims.
Time.
Okay.
Okay. Before I give the voting on who wins, I'm gonna let people do a Q&A.
Wait, I thought we had
Ghost roll.
Crossfire.
Oh, I thought. Oh yeah, you guys did have a crossfire. I apologize. I forgot. I was thinking of the old format, so I apologize. It was what, 10 minutes of crossfire or 5 minutes?
Whatever my opponent would like. I like
Uh,
10. I think 10 would be better.
okay, we can do 10.
Okay. Time starting now.
Okay, so again, I also clarify one point. You said that invoking God doesn't provide reason. God is the reason, and I would say morality tracks with nature. So there doesn't have to be a separate argument that nature, the morality is predicated on the nature, and God is the foundation for that reason. So yeah. So now, really, the only question I have now is: you say these things about okay, it should be like that, it should be like that. Why? Oh, okay, I'll just make this very simple. Okay, everything you said, I my opinion is I don't agree, and I think you're wrong. Now, what is the
Okay.
justification to give me to say that? Okay, I am not wrong, and this what I'm saying is true. What is the foundation? What's the standard?
You're asking right now to justify my standard on
Yes.
what I base it on. Okay.
Something that is not an is proposition, something that's an actual ought.
One second. Because the problem is I've been trying to argue through scientific method quite a bit, so this is where it hurts me a bit. As I said, I'm not trying to derive an ought from an is. I'm trying to apply a moral principle. The ought comes
Why
from
the moral principle?
yeah. The principle comes from beings who can be wronged. That's what I've been trying to say, that I base my morality on the fact that moral subjects can only be people who consciously comprehend it or are subjects to it, and then will be reciprocal in this.
Okay, why?
And why I base it off consciousness. Well, I would say that that is my moral understanding of what morality is. It is my
Opinion?
personal.
Is that another way of saying it's an opinion?
Yeah, it's an opinion. Yeah, I mean, I know it's not really a good look, but I mean,
Okay,
that
well,
is
my
what I.
opinion is I think abortion is totally murder. I think abortion's terrible. I think I won the debate. Those are my opinions. Opinion. So
You're representing the opinion of people who have agreed to come up with a system of justifying it. I'm coming.
and you have come up with an opinion of people that want to justify. It's the same thing. There's no when you say opinion, you have completely destroyed the whole proposition debate. Now now on your position, we're completely just debating opinions. So you've destroyed the whole premise of the debate by saying that.
Okay, then let me try to give a moral understanding of that, which will be harder because
Okay.
that was not what I tried to base my debate on, even though I should have. Uh, so what a lot of these pro-abortion people use as justification is, I know I'm going in circles here, but this is what the point of view that I've been trying to represent, is that they believe that the morality argument comes into play, what I've been trying to say here, that people cannot be morally wronged if they don't like consciously exist yet. That was what I tried to base my entire thing upon. I admit I have not been very clear in it. So now, honestly, due to the logical I can't even fucking speak English. Sorry, guys. The logical inconsistency in my argument, I am forced to forfeit this debate. I'm just no,
Well,
no.
I appreciate the humility. I
I
appreciate the
am.
humility.
I know when I messed up. I am forced to forfeit this debate because he has outplayed me.
Yeah. Also,
It's that simple.
Dom, I want to give props to you because English is your second language, and you were really trying your hardest to like clarify everything. But yeah, I was gonna say Clez, even if
I
after the end of
respect that.
this, I was gonna say Clez wins because you during the cross sex, I was kind of flowing the whole debate, but in the cross sex, I believe you asked him. Let me find your cross sex. You asked him, does moral status begin at conception? So you guys agreed. Clez said yes. You guys agreed when moral status begins. You never really brought your own framework, and then you kind of played some more defense and you did offense. So Clez was just able to chip in as many things as he wanted to because he already established everything that he wanted to say with his framework. So you really had nothing to really go off of. So I would say Clez kind of won
Uh,
here.
yeah, I would. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a small justification. I tried to argue that I shouldn't have, but I used consciousness as like the cutoff point being 20 to 24 weeks. I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
that at the
I got
very
that written down.
beginning,
Yep, I'll just
and
appreciate it.
that was I played it off of scientific understanding, which is, as we can see in the debate, not the way to go, guys. So anyone debating after me, don't do that.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that is where I
So,
tried to put it off.
Okay. Yeah.
all
So we
right.
can
So
say at the
I
end
just
of
want
the
to throw in my
Q&A.
thoughts really quick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Before the Q&A section. I just want to say I think that the main problem was that even just in the introductory statement, Clez gave a really solid grounding for why he gets his morality. He roots it in the Bible, and he says that moral rights are grounded in God's essence. But Dom didn't have that kind of justification, so whenever he was questioning Clez, his views were internally consistent. Whereas I think that Dom would have had to substantiate his moral grounding rather than just saying, I think this is morally wrong based on this principle, and then how do you know that principle? So you kind of get this infinite regress of why is this right, where you need some kind of grounding.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna do a Q&A section. I'm gonna bring up one person at a time. Nora, I know you've had your hand up for a minute, so you can go ahead and ask your question.
Wait, what? I didn't hear you.
You can ask you've had your hand up
Oh,
for a
it's
minute.
Nora.
Have you had a question? Yes or no? Or just move you
Oh
down?
no, I didn't have a question. I just like.
My gosh. All right, dealer.
Thank you. Thank God.
You have something to say, or?
Yeah, I had a question for SamuraiDom.
Yep.
So, how do you feel about like the people accusing you on using ChatGPT? Like, do you think?
To the debate, bro.
Yeah, no. Let me answer that. Once you can speak 3 languages and start using them in your head at the same time, I will encourage you to start debating, especially in a foreign language, because it is not very easy to gather all your thoughts in one specific language and then tell that. I mean,
That's true.
honestly, Clez, I have to applaud him. Really great debate. He put it all forward. I just did not hold up to the standard. That is what happened.
Oh.
He brought the no he both um grammatically, like, not grammatically, like in terms of vocabulary,
Mhm.
the vocabulary, I can't speak. See, this is what happens. In terms of vocabulary, in terms of like philosophical language, he brought it up a notch, and I could just not stand with it. So I needed more time to actually try. I think in Hungarian. My base language is Hungarian. I have to translate
Mhm.
everything into English.
Okay. And I just want to say I actually respect you because you have a lot of humility, and the whole laughing during debate is mostly this chat is crazy, bro. They say like
Yeah, no,
funny things, but
no, funny.
I
Yeah.
do respect you. I appreciate you taking this up.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people like in debate to close their chat because they'll say the dumbest things. I remember Waffle getting nervous last debate because everyone was joining in, just stacking on how quick he was speaking.
To be fair, though, to be fair, Wapple was literally just rapping in the last debate. It was
Yeah, no, he
like
was
to see.
rapping.
He had to spread.
Yeah, I
Go
mean,
ahead and
he was just saying nothing though,
ask
bro.
your
Like I
question.
slowed down the video, he was mumbling.
I have 2
What's
questions.
up, Shirex?
What's up?
Uh,
Oh, you can only ask one.
Hello, Bureau.
No, can I just get 2 real quick? It's like they're
No,
both quick.
It's
right?
one.
You
That's
get
how it
one.
works.
You get one, bro.
So Dom, after this debate, are you still pro-choice?
Yes. Because the thing is that, here's the thing about debating. It's a form of, it's not only a form of exercise, it is also a form of educated bickering. Like, we're kind of going back and forth here. It is us trying to exchange our views. It is not really us trying to change each other's views. I mean, that's how I comprehend it. He is trying to justify in what he believes. I try to justify in what I believe. I am not here to change anyone's opinions. That's the choice and like the work of the politicians. We're here having a good time debating, or at least he had a less better time because he wasn't really debating. He was more so, expressing himself naturally. I was here sweating. So yes.
Okay. Who else? Who else? Duck Ponded.
I have a question for Clez.
Yes, sir.
How do you have so much aura?
Off topic.
All
All right.
I love Jesus Christ. That's why.
Amen. Alex. What's that you up?
Nora has her hand up. I don't know if you want to raise her.
Yeah, but I'm gonna leave it to the last.
All right. I'm
What's
not
up?
gonna lie. I was not here for the debate, but I have a question question kind of for both of y'all. What is, like, when it comes to abortion and stuff like that, or just in general, what is your stance on the morality of taking a human life?
That's kind of the whole point of the debate, bro. Look. If you
Yeah,
weren't here,
taking
I'm gonna post
human
a
lives
video.
unjustified is wrong.
Look, bro. Look, Alex. Look, I'm gonna post a video. Long story short, Clez said it's wrong. Dom said it's wrong in some cases, but not in all. That's the whole point. HDRX.
Holy stone, no way.
That's Loic.
Loic. Oh, it's Loic.
Loic's definitely gonna ask about flat Earth.
How you doing, Holy Stone?
It's
I
already
haven't seen that guy in like 3 years.
Yeah, well, he's not asking stuff to get lit up.
Loic, you just got invited up to stage.
Yeah, big Loic.
If you want to accept.
I guess not. Is that Wada?
Balkan.
Actually, yeah, we can.
Wada, where?
We can do Salcos.
All right.
I'll do Wada last.
Question for both of y'all. If one of y'all had like in position like do abortion, would y'all do it?
Bruh. I mean.
What are these
bruh.
questions? You know, I don't think I'm gonna ever
What?
do Q&A again. What is this? I forget.
Like,
this
what
is like
kind of-
LFG. People just don't know.
Okay, so Clez, let's say hypothetically you okay, don't even, just unblock me first. But anyways, let's say hypothetically you have a daughter, right? She's 11, she just like hits puberty, whatever. And then let's say her uncle just goes ahead and rapes her, and then she ends up becoming pregnant. You're going to
I'm not
willingly.
answering.
That's
You're
hello?
blocked. I don't want to talk to you. Don't. I'm good.
I mean, he can say no. He can say no. He doesn't have to answer.
Yeah.
What
I mean, he just kind of like listen. I want to clarify something before we bring anyone back up. The whole topic of the debate was whether it is morally acceptable or not. Clez's position is that it's murder, so obviously he's gonna say murder is wrong. I don't understand why this is like the biggest.
Yeah, you guys keep asking the question of
for everyone.
What's your stances? They answered
Like
it
this is the whole thing that got debated. If you weren't here for the debate, then too bad.
That's on you.
The thing
I'll
is-
just post the video. You can watch it.
Clez answered it better than I did, so if it was like directed towards me, I would understand.
Gunther.
But towards Clez, it's insane.
Gunther.
Gunther?
What's up?
Oh, hello.
Gunther.
Yo, quick question for Clez. So the last LFG game you played, you actually lost me, and I wanted to get your input on that because you quit.
You got it. You got it. Yeah, what he said is true. I'll admit it.
Okay, RMS. RMS, is your handle for that same question that you were asking in chat, or is it different? Because you were asking.
I want my run back.
You're gonna run it back. Interesting. Okay. Anybody else with actual
Different
questions?
question.
Because PRX.
RMS a different question.
Okay.
RMS said it's a different question.
Okay. Cool. Appreciate it.
Bonjour. I was gonna say, that I agree with Clez, but only after 120 days, and only if the mother's life is in danger. Like, imagine first 120 days, right? And the mother has an illness, right? And the pregnancy can put the mother's life in danger. I would say that abortion is allowed, but after that, I would say it's not. What's your points
Are
on
you
that?
a woman?
Yeah.
All right, sweetheart. So what I would say is that
What?
I would agree with what you said, but I feel like it's neither here nor there. I feel like if you know it's gonna be a threat to a mother's life, you would know before or after, whatever. But I would agree. I'm happy that you are pro-life. That is a good thing. I appreciate you.
Yes.
Might have to edit that part
All
out.
right.
Sam.
Yeah, we're all right.
Yo, my question's a little bit off topic, but yo, Pastor Clez, bro, what camera do you have?
All right, bro, just kick him off the
I
stage.
have a Sony ZV-E10.
It's a pretty nice camera. Actually,
Yeah.
here, let me see my DMs.
We
People
have-
been DMing me.
Oh, we have what's his name? NY Dealer's raising his hand. I don't know if he
Okay.
came up already.
Okay. Yeah, he did, and it was kind of off. I mean, it was on topic, but I mean, Dealer, is it a different question? Yes or no? Because I'll bring you up as actually a different.
Well, he was begging me to bring him up. I don't know.
Because he already came up. Okay, fine.
He's saying yes.
Okay, Dealer, if it's serious, I'll trust you, bro. I don't know why, but I'm trusting you.
All right. It's a question for Clez. So, if you had a rematch right now against who's Gunther, do you think you would beat him?
Oh my god.
I
you lost to
would
Gunther? Word.
destroy Gunther. I would absolutely rip him apart. It wouldn't even be close.
Hold on,
Once
hold on.
I get
I
hosted,
wanna.
once I get a
Hold on,
team,
pause, Nanny,
it's
pause, Nanny.
over.
Okay, real quick question for you, Clez. If it was you versus Gunther, is that 35-0 mercy? Yes or no?
It is going to be a 7-0 Mercy because they are going to quit before it can even get to 35-0. It won't even be close.
Okay, back on topic.
Hold on, wait. I saw. Oh,
All right,
okay.
yeah. All right, so I heard repeatedly that Dom couldn't base his claims in science, or like there's like a phrase you guys
moral.
had for it, like
Morality.
is ought.
Yep.
Yeah. So wait, why is that?
Because the thing
That's
is,
for me, right?
Oh yeah.
All right, yeah. Go ahead, Clez, if you can answer. Sure, whoever.
Oh yeah. So the reason why is because science just describes what's happening. It can't ascribe any kind of moral value to it. I would say that explaining it could take a very long time. This is kind of a foundational problem with philosophy. I would just Google is ought, look at the Wikipedia page. Most atheists have at this point looked at this and said, all right, we can't get an ought from an is, except for the more modern atheists that I would say are, I'm allowed to say retard.
Okay,
Well, I
so
mean, you just did
can't
it, so.
use. Yeah, so you can't use science to explain morality as basically like the bottom line of it.
Yeah.
Can't,
Because the thing is that science is factual understanding of our universe, which is the trap I fell into, that you're describing things as they are within an observable, like you can say that this is X, Y, Z, you classify it this way. You cannot really put an otherworldly, in this sense, the otherworldly would be like the moral, the metaphysical aspect to it. You cannot like describe it through science because science is inherently the opposite of it. You're saying something which exists there on your dimensional plane, and without any like, how should I put this, foreign concepts, if that makes sense. You're saying that here's a sheet of paper, it is made out of wood. You cannot put like a spiritual or I don't know, like aesthetic value to it because scientifically, because that would not really explain what it is scientifically. Scientifically, it's a piece of paper, but through aesthetics, through, I don't know, religion, you're saying that, oh, this piece of paper actually belongs into the Quran, the Bible, the Torah, so it is part of a sacred holy text and has otherworldly meanings to it.
Okay, well, thank you for the one good question. I already have like 20 minutes ago. Do you have a question, or are you just gonna sit here?
No, I genuinely have a question.
Okay,
All right, so SamuraiDom, a question for you that I have is a fetus a human being, right? And if so, at what point does it gain like the right to like life?
They said this, but you can go ahead and answer.
No,
My
I'll
bad.
answer
I
it.
was AFK. I ain't gonna lie.
So the thing is that it's, once again, I will go out of my way and say that I am a hypocrite. I do have beliefs that can contradict themselves, but what I think a fetus is not yet a fully developed human being. I'm not saying that it's kind of like a transitional period for me. I think that you can't classify it into two polar camps, saying that it's either human or it's not. It's somewhere in the middle. And what I said is that it was 20 to 24 weeks is the general scientific understanding on when the brain starts to like neurologically develop more and start to respond to stimuli. So that is what I tried to base my claim on.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that it's not really a human. It's just like kind of a lesser human, but not in like a worth sense, but more so like a being sense. Yeah, like you're on the way of becoming a human, but you're not a human yet, if that makes sense. That is my understanding. I mean, that is an opinion. I don't have a moral framework for it.
Okay, a few more questions. Nanya, since Nanya actually asked a real question, I'm gonna let him do their second question. Yeah, I think again, Dom. If you can't use science to grow morality, then how would you even make an argument for pro-choice here?
Because the thing is, I tried to do the conscious agency version of morality, but the thing is that it's not really like a moral understanding. It's more so like a method of morality that some people use. So I didn't. That was the problem. That like retrospectively, I see I failed in, because Clez established his moral understanding as being Christian values. I didn't lay that ground. It's kind of like, I'll give an analogy. His argument has a root. His root is Christianity. My argument didn't have a root, it just had a trunk and branches. Like, my branch there was the conscious agency. And I didn't sufficiently give any actual grounding to my understanding, to my argument. So that is why I conceded, because I noticed that when I should have. I mean, I didn't prepare adeptly. Like, I should have done better. There's no other way of saying it. I failed.
Okay. Stoke, I'm gonna let you up because I know you have Salkos's question, but you're gonna ask it, so bring her. Get up here, little man.
Nigga, wait, what the fuck am I supposed to ask?
Yo.
Salko, okay, no, never mind.
Oh.
Salko, just come here and ask the question, bro. Unless he's shy. He's great. He has such a way with words. Actually, okay, here, beatboxer, since Salko's declined.
Yo.
What's your question?
Yo, how you doing? Oh, my question is for Dom, actually.
Yep.
All right, so Dom, so like now that you've seen that, you've seen this, because I see this a lot, very often with like atheists and like agnostic arguments,
Yep.
like the moral argument. It does tend to be a lot weaker in philosophy, and I do see it like picked apart often. Do you see yourself like looking more into like a theistic worldview after like this debate, or do you not see that happening?
So here's the thing, for everyone out there, I am agnostic. I do believe that God exists, but I do not really describe myself to a religion. Little
That would be a
backstory.
deist.
You'd be a deist, yeah.
Yeah, deist. Sorry. So I was brought up I'm European. I was brought up in a Christian, more like in a world of Christian morality. So I am, by some ways, influenced by Christian understandings of what is right, what is just, etc. I do not fully accept all of them. I mean, I'm kind of, as much as I hate to admit it, I kind of just like picked and chose what I felt was right to me, which is Christianity would be against that. So as many other religions, but I do pick some of my morality out of Christianity, so I cannot fully be distant from it, as it is the world I grew up in and surrounded by, but I have never been exposed to Christian teachings as I believe Clez has. So I cannot really I cannot really base all of my moral how should I put this? Moral ideologies on Christianity. But I do admit that Christianity, among other religions, have some really great moral frameworks. Like, I don't know. I mean, "Thou shalt not kill." It's in every religion, etc. Or like what Christ said, that um I don't know the exact words. I don't want to desecrate his holy words, because I know that it's sensitive topic. But like, be kind to your neighbor. I subscribe to that as well. Like, be kind to everyone. Try to be kind to people, and that is something that I took up from Christianity, for example.
I have a question actually for Dom. Dom, throughout this debate, like the conclusion I came out with this debate, right? You kind of said like you admit that some of your moral views are hypocritical.
Yep.
What would you say to an emotivist view?
Sorry, could you clarify?
What are your thoughts on emotivism?
No, but what emotivism is, because like I don't know. All
Emotivism basically states that moral statements are not descriptions of facts, but they are expressions of emotion or attitude. So, for example, you would say that murder is wrong based on it feeling bad.
I don't really think that it's based on emotions themselves. I mean, there is some aspect to it. You don't want to do something unto others, but you wouldn't want to be done unto yourself. Deontology, like Kant. But the thing is that there are some like there are things that are like inherently understood. There's things that are as the thing is, I cannot base this in anything, which is why I call myself a hypocrite. But Clez can base this in Christian understandings that there are some worldviews which just inherently exist within the world. And I'm saying that not everything is based on emotion. Some of it is based off of pure, more like some form of morality. This is a problem. I have not really identified what this morality is. I just try to explain it, but I don't have a full definition of it, which is once again why I consider myself a hypocrite. Um, and I'm trying to argue. I'm trying to define what it is, but I do think that it is more complex than just being made up of emotions. Like if you tell someone, if you tell a child that like, hey, this is wrong, they can like inherently understand it and not through emotions as well. Like there's something that it's part of what makes us human, that we just know that it is wrong to do something.
Okay, really quickly before I bring up a few more people, I do want to say thanks, Vol, because I didn't think that whenever I asked Vol about this media that he would actually like allow something like this to happen. So I do want to say thank you to Vol for actually allowing me to be able to make this media and the server and have the stage, so we are able to actually be able to do these debates and kind of talk about this stuff and let people hear it. So I do thank him for that, even if it is like restricted because of the stuff that's happened. I do want to thank him for that. And actually, I have a question for you, Dom, and then I'll bring up someone. So, since you agree that your morals, like your moral statements, are kind of hypocritical, um, do you think that your worldview now collapses? And if so,
No.
no.
I kind of subscribed myself to the Hegelian thesis, antithesis, synthesis thing. Humanity, in my opinions, this is an opinion, not any moral framework, is a continuously evolving thing. This includes your moral understandings, and this includes your ideologies, your sense of identity. I mean, to an extent, even Christianity has this, because back in the problem is for them, it's kind of like more so also understanding or reinterpreting parts of their text, as for other religions as well. Like the Christian church, the Catholic Church has started to become more open to gays as well, for example. So okay, Clez. No, but like I feel like there's the humanity is constantly evolving. I believe that I myself don't have a fixed moral set of systems, which is why things can evolve, they can change, and which is why I'm a hypocrite, because I might accidentally or maybe intentionally hold opposing views, which I've found myself doing before. But these hypocritical aspects of your understanding of the world, I believe, signify a clashing between your old and your new, or a new input of understanding, and they're fighting over which one comes out on top. I think that is how I view my morality.
Okay, thank you, Dom. Okay, actually, OLC. Actually, no, he was a little bit late, so I don't know if he's gonna have a real question. That it for the questions? I think so, because PRX already came up. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna end this here. Shout out to Vol. Thank you for letting me actually have the host media. Sand, if you're still here though, I do want to talk to you because what you were saying in chat. Wait, no, he's not here. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night. And oh, Sand's coming. Okay, cool. See you, boys. Have a good night. Thank you, Clez and Dom, for actually showing up. I'm gonna stay here though, just to see if Sand.
Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah. Have a good day, boys.
Bye.
Mustafa, what are your opinions? Oh, he just left me. Okay, screw you, Mustafa. Okay. Now I'm trying to come up, bro. No, one at a time. I don't do all these autographs. You gotta wait. Patience, patience. No blue pen though. No blue pen. Okay. Actually, while we're here, let me change the topic, cause now I kind of want to do this. Okay, Sand. I do want to talk to you because you were saying that you became an agnostic because of Mustafa.
No, well, it's I was like joking about like because of Mustafa, but like yeah, well I'm more deist than agnostic, but
Okay. Well, you said you were a Christian before?
yeah, I was Christian before.
Okay, well, what changed that?
Well, I went more into depth with Christianity.